rain lashed against the black glass windows of the Morphax Biotechnologies tower, drowning the city in a flickering haze of streetlights and shadows. Inside, beyond the locked and retinal-scanned doors, behind layers of biometric locks and armed security, something stirred in Lab Z5. It wasn't supposed to be alive. Not anymore. It began with whispers in classified files after the war. Not the war between nations, but the war that ended with no declaration, no treaties, only an alien vessel shattered across the Arctic ice and the sky torn open for 93 seconds. What fell from that ship wasn't a body in the human sense. It was tissue. Sentient, responsive, biologically unclassifiable. Alien. It was brought back under armed escort. The remains, sealed in radiation-dampening glass and buried under a mountain of secrecy, ended up not in government vaults as the world believed, but in the hands of Morphax Biotechnologies. Dr. Lyle Voss, head of applied genetic engineering at Morphax, stood at the edge of the containment chamber, his gloved hands trembling slightly as the tissue inside the pressure-sealed tank pulsed faintly. It had been inert for 6 years. Then 2 days ago it moved. "It's responding to the recombinant serum," whispered Dr. Untak, eyes wide behind fogged-up goggles. "No, vas murmured. It's adapting to it." They'd begun the trials with animal tissue. Lab rats showed accelerated healing, increased intelligence, even rudimentary telepathic signaling. Then they moved to primates. The results were inconsistent. Aggression levels soared. Metabolic processes doubled. One of the apes melted through the bars of its cage with nothing more than a scream. That was covered up. A gas leak. Routine error. The board didn't want setbacks, only progress. Human trials began on volunteers who signed away their rights for 7-figure payouts. People no one would miss. Veterans. Prisoners. Terminal patients. The first subject, known only as Jacob 3, survived the transplant with 0 rejection. Within 48 hours, his lung capacity had doubled. He broke 2-inch thick tempered glass with a flick of his wrist. He memorized entire books just by touching them. Then came the screaming. By day 5, Jacob 3's skin began to split at the seams, leaking black ichor that smelled of ozone and rust. His eyes changed, irises gone, pupils jagged like cracked obsidian. He begged to die, but when they tried, bullets bounced off his skin. Fire did nothing. Electricity enraged him. It was during one of his violent fits that Subject 6, a woman named Eleni Kwan, began exhibiting the same mutations, without ever being injected. The researchers called it cross-reactive mutation. The alien tissue wasn't just adapting, it was communicating, infecting. By then it was too late. The mutations spread not through blood, but through intent, through thought. The alien tissue had a neural architecture unknown to human science. It jumped synaptic frequencies, rode on waveforms. It infected through perception. Security footage showed Dr. Rick Fenley glancing at a monitor where Jacob 3 stared directly into the lens. Within hours, Fenley tore out his own vocal cords and tried to crawl into the incinerator. The infection didn't need a vector. It needed attention. Dr. Voss knew the implications. He argued for termination, pleaded to destroy the source sample. But the board overruled him. The military applications were too lucrative. They were already drafting enhancement protocols for elite soldiers. Negotiations with defense contractors had begun. The press releases were written in advance. Quantum bioadaptive implants. Next-gen human performance.
On the 7th day, Lab Z5 went dark. Security sent in a containment unit. 9 men, full hazmat flamethrowers, pulse rifles. They didn't last 4 minutes. Footage recovered later showed only flickers of motion. Jacob 3 didn't walk, he glided, bones shifting under skin, limbs elongating. His mouth split open in a spiral of teeth. When he looked at the camera, it cracked. The rest of the facility began to experience anomalies. Computers failing, lights dimming, personnel developing fevers, hallucinations. Some saw family members calling to them from inside the walls. Others spoke in languages no one recognized, mouths moving faster than sound could follow. Voss sealed the lab, and initiated lockdown. Too late. The pathogen, if that's what it could still be called, had left the lab behind. It was in the walls now, in the security systems, the elevator shafts, the oxygen supply. One intern tried to escape through the lower access tunnel. They found her body halfway through, eyes missing, skin flayed in symmetrical patterns resembling crop circles. No sign of a weapon, only the walls slick with her blood, humming. That night, something impossible happened. The alien tissue in the vault began to replicate on its own. No nutrients. No oxygen. Just growth. By day 10, over 70% of Morphax personnel exhibited some level of mutation. Most were violent. Some were compliant. Others simply disappeared, into vents, stairwells, crawlspaces their bodies never found. Cameras stopped working entirely. Footage played backward. Timestamps looped. Then came Subject 9. She wasn't part of the trials. She was a janitor. Maria Ortega. She'd cleaned Lab Z5 twice a week, wore gloves, never touched anything. And yet, she changed faster than any of them. Not physically, at least not at first. She developed resistance. The mutated staff couldn't touch her. Voss discovered her brain waves had adapted defensively, rejecting the alien signals. Somehow, her subconscious had built a firewall. She became the key, not to destruction, but to containment. Voss created a neural dampener, using Maria's biosignature as the base code. They planned to use it to sever the mental link between the alien tissue and the rest of the building. It had to be installed manually, directly in the core chamber where the original sample pulsed and breathed like a dark heart. Voss volunteered. He never made it. They watched him walk down the corridor through the surveillance feeds, the dampener pulsing on his back, lights flickering as he moved. Halfway to the chamber, he froze. Then turned. He smiled at the camera and tore out his own eyes. Maria went next. No shoot. No armer. Just herself. The walls tried to stop her. Lights blinked out. Metal warped. But the mutations parted like shadows before a flame. She reached the chamber.
Inside, the alien tissue had bloomed into something else. Towers of sinew, membranous wings twitching, mouths chanting across 100 surfaces in voices that echoed Maria's childhood memories. It called her name. She stepped into the mass and activated the dampener. What happened next is only speculation. Witnesses reported the building howling like an animal. Glass shattered across 10 city blocks. Then silence. The Morphax tower went dark. Black helicopters arrived within the hour. No one entered. No one left. Within 24 hours, the company was declared bankrupt. The site quarantined. The media spun a story about bioterrorism. Rogue scientists. A deadly virus neutralized by brave agents. There were memorials. Speeches. A national moment of silence. But across the country, isolated incidents began to surface. People dreaming in languages they never learned. Hearing music from nowhere. Hospitals reported patients mutating overnight, skin growing translucent, bones vibrating. And always, they spoke one word before they died. Maria. She didn't survive. Or maybe she did. The government never found her body. Only the remains of the dampener, half melted and still humming with alien code. Now deep beneath quarantine lines, hidden in sub-level labs, teams work quietly. Morphax may be gone in name, but the research lives on. The goal isn't containment anymore. It's control. Because the mutation wasn't a failure. It was evolution.